All right, and we are live with Roasters Marketplace's Meet the Roasters. Again, we've got two roasters today. We are talking with Luis and Christina from South Slope Coffee in Asheville, North Carolina. Really excited to have these two guests on today. This is our special Valentine's Day edition. I don't have too many. I don't think I have anybody else that's married. I don't have a husband and wife team that are roasters. Not to say there's not many of them out there, but we're really happy to have them both on today. And if I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about how Roasters Marketplace got started on this, and let me move my green screens here coming out. Let me adjust that. So I talked to you guys in November the first time, I believe, right?
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Something like
and when I started talking to you, Luis, you're almost the inspiration for this show. When I first talked to you and you told me about how you met your wife and then how y'all got here and the whole story behind South Slope, I was like, I want to tell everybody about these guys. I just want to tell your story. So that tells us why we're here today. But I want to hear how you met. I want to hear a little bit about that before we go into coffee, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to tell the story of our roasters. So welcome to the show. Welcome to Meet Your Roasters. And please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm Christina Cole. We're actually both from Venezuela, Caracas. Luis.
Yeah, and I'm Luis Hellman. I mean, even though we're like the modern couple that go, we kept our last names. It's like I didn't force her to take my last name.
Yeah.
So
that I don't like it.
But anyways, we were both born in Venezuela, even though we met in Miami, and we did not meet in Venezuela at any time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were kind of disphased, just in our own times.
Yeah.
And we met in Miami about 9 years ago.
Yes. I met his stepfather in Caracas playing golf. And then we got back into communication, in Miami. He invited me to play golf again. I was supposed to play golf with him and his parents, and he didn't make it. So I played with his parents by myself. And then they invited me to a Latin concert, and I was very excited about that.
It was a Latin rock concert, to be exact.
So I met him there.
And from that day, it took me about a week, to be honest with you, to actually reach out again. But after that, we've been inseparable. Very lucky to have found each other, really.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we were working in other things. Other jobs. I was in real estate for a very long time, managing, building, and selling too. That's what I used to do in Miami. I was a broker, and she was managing in some companies, and then she got into, and then that's something she can tell you. She managed in a golf app.
Yeah.
That does handicaps. So. And we were actually, why would we end up in Asheville is just we had other business opportunities that were happening before even coffee, and that's what brought us here. And our love for coffee is really a Latin thing because it's something that it's ingrained in our blood. Really, coffee is just like part of society. And Venezuela, you see, there's coffee plantations. Many places, and we were actually one of the biggest importers at one point. So, but I don't know if you want. I don't know if you have something else to say about us and how we met.
Well, not how we met. That's pretty much it. No, but we ended up here also. Like the first time, the first time I got here, I fell in love with the city, with the vibe, with the mountains. Like this place is spectacular.
And it does have some resemblance to Caracas.
Yes, it
Sometimes
does.
there's parts of Asheville where you're like, wow, this is, even though Caracas doesn't have 4 seasons, vegetation's a little different. There are some points in the year where you're driving somewhere and it's just like so alike our city, our home.
Yeah.
So, not only is the city cool, but there's that connection also
Yeah.
of that feel of our childhood,
Yep.
Because I've lived really in Miami most of my life, even though, I'm from it as well.
Yeah, I've seen some of y'all's pictures y'all post of Asheville and just looking around, and I think I've ended up starting to follow a couple different places there on Instagram that y'all hit a pretty good food scene there.
Yeah, we have
going.
a great food scene.
Yeah.
We love hiking. We both have motorcycles, so we go on a Blue Ridge Parkway and take a whole day out on our motorcycles. It's a great place if you like the outdoors, mountain biking.
Yeah.
Everything.
Definitely on the top of my list of where to go to meet my roasters in person, for sure.
You're very welcome. You have a home here.
Awesome. So how did y'all start getting into specialty coffee?
Do you want me to say?
Yeah, you can start.
Yeah, we have a small roastery close to our home in Miami called Alaska, the roasting company.
Alaska Coffee Roasting.
Coffee roasting. I forget.
Okay.
I'm terrible at names, but they actually do air roasting, and they had a lot of single origin, something that we weren't used to all the time. In all reality, even though a lot of people hate Starbucks, especially in the specialty coffee industry because of the way they roast, blah, blah, that's all very personal thing. It really did get us into specialty coffee. Let's be honest here. Thanks to Starbucks, we started noticing what specialty coffee really is, even though nowadays it might not be called specialty, whatever you want to put it, it's not that great a coffee. So as we thought it was, but then, we met Alaska roasting company, and we started tasting these, they never roast too dark. And we started tasting these different notes on each origin, which was great. That's how we started really loving specialty coffee, just buying single origin coffees that had all these different notes. And every week or so, we would just buy a different bag of a different origin that they had. And we just fell in love. We really, we already loved coffee a ton. And once we noticed that, we can actually, have that each coffee tastes different, we started to enjoy it so much. And actually through there is where our home roasting operations began. And thanks to all these small green sellers that can sell you a pound of green coffee. And we actually did go to Brazil too.
Yeah.
And that was huge because we went to a couple places that had a lot of different, single farm coffees roasted by different roasters. And that also helped us open our eyes even more. And it was all in the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And through there, actually, we started home roasting and figuring out, buying different green coffees from so many different farms. And the whole story of each farmer just drew us in so much that we were really enjoying ourselves. When we really, at one point, we really were just doing this for the love of it, not thinking of it as a business.
Yeah.
It was just, we would just buy 10 or even more pounds of coffee, but each pound was from a different farm. And reading the story of each farm is what, really drew us in even more to coffee. That each, there's these farmers that are taking such hard work to do what they do, getting us meticulous, very well processed and picked coffee that tastes wonderful and tastes different, and then obviously it's getting to know how to roast it. And that, I guess that's another part of the story. But, that's really what got us into specialty coffee. And where we are now is all thanks to those key components.
So I actually was able to witness my first roasting experience this morning. I went to a local roaster here that's a few miles from the house that I've been talking to, and did some photos and video for him. And I never understood how hands-on the process was. And just trying to talk to him, he'd get a sentence out and then be going to do something, and then write something down, or pull and look and smell and then go back. And I'm like, So this is why nobody does Facebook Lives when they're roasting coffee. This
Exactly.
is
Right. Yeah.
this is way too intense. He's having to turn stuff and just do all kinds of stuff as he's roasting the coffee.
That's right.
One of these days, I'll do a Facebook Live while he's roasting, and just
Yeah.
show our customers the amount of work that goes into
It is.
producing that coffee and doing that repeatedly.
Yep.
The
You
same.
know,
Yeah.
You know, one of the beautiful parts about coffee, which I find, is that there's so many parts involved in getting a good cup. Not only does the farmer have to do an excellent job, the importer does also. If it's not the farmer, I mean, almost no farmer imports. You know, see, there's some intermediary, and then getting to the roaster or the home roaster and them roasting it right and then preparing it. I mean, preparing is probably the hardest, one of the hardest parts to get right. I mean, we could all do an excellent job, and then it gets to a coffee shop or it gets to the home, and you don't know what you're doing, and then you're like, wow, this coffee's terrible. It's too light, it's too acidic, it's too, and part of it might be the brewing, and then you really have a beautiful coffee in front of you. So I mean, there's so many moving parts for
Yeah.
it to be perfect. And that's, I think it's just such a human business that it is beautiful, And that's why we love it so much in all reality. That's one of the reasons why it's so hard. I mean, for it to be perfect. So
Yeah, for sure. And not only just the roasting part, just before you gotta prepare, you gotta heat up the machine correctly, you gotta do,
you have to be consistent.
Yes, everything has to be very methodical. So, and in between batches as well, you have some steps that you have to follow. So it's everything. It's everything.
Yeah, if you want your coffee to taste or at least be roasted exactly, I mean, with consistency, you have to follow these patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And it's very important for a roaster to be consistent, because then you're getting, the same bag of, let's say Guatemala, from Buena Vista, and one time it's going to taste different than the other. I mean, that's not, in our case, it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
We're very meticulous.
How many offerings do y'all have now? I know I don't think I have all of your. Do I have all of yours on my website?
I think you do have most of them, because I think there might be one that we only have one bag left.
Yeah.
It's like, I forget. Is it bad that I don't know all my offerings by the head? But it's about like 8.
Yeah, about
we
8,
have
10. Yeah.
we have an Ethiopia, Mexico, and Honduras, a Guatemala, a Colombian, a Peru. We have
Kenyan.
No, the Kenyan, we're about to launch a Kenyan, which is fantastic actually.
Yeah.
And we still have some Burundi, but we got another Burundi coming in from Long Miles, which is fabulous, and a new Colombian coming in. So
nice.
It's quite a bit, and we don't do blends. We like to. An important part of our philosophy, which is, people that do blends, there's nothing wrong with blends. I mean, it's just the way we like to express our coffee. We like to express our coffee, especially mainly single farmers. I mean, we really love to have a single farmer coffee or a single co-op. In Africa, it's not a lot of people have estates or large enough farms to be able, so it has to be a co-op.
Yeah.
But we're kind of enamored with the single farm, single estate coffee, and even single variety, because you're really tasting that plant in itself, and that single variety. I think that's fascinating, because obviously there's a lot, we have a lot of coffees that are various varieties, mixed variety, and the blends work great. I mean, those blends of varieties work great, but there's something special about drinking a coffee that's just one single variety. And knowing that you're getting it also with almost no defects from the farmer, it's even harder. That's what we offer. That's where we actually look to buy coffee. Our sourcing is our farmers do an awesome job, and our importers, and we are more than happy to pay much higher premium than anybody else for having that perfection. Let's call it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So when that leads, we covered 3 or 4 of my questions there, which is awesome. When you go and you do select a source for your green coffee, when you're out cupping, or talk to me about the process of you selecting that farm or that crop.
So we're a small operation, so unfortunately we can't yet go to farms, but we're lucky enough to be in an age where we have very responsible importers who are very hands-on with their farmers and make sure that that everything's being done right at the source, getting the farmers getting paid if they have a good product well enough for them to do well and to build on that, and that everything in that country or in that area is being built on too. So that was our first criteria on who are we choosing to find our green beans. Secondly, we talk to our importers, see the type of coffee we like. It's mainly like single farmers or cooperatives, and then it's taste. We like complex coffees that have a lot of different notes to them, either being very sweet, floral. It's all very specific. So we ask for samples. Some importers, actually, the ones that we know very well and know that they roast well for sampling, send it to us already roasted. It's quicker. I like to roast the samples too, but it is quicker in deciding if they know how to roast a sample.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll go and cup them. We'll cup them several times. And actually, if we have enough of that sample, we'll not only cup them, but we will brew them in pour overs, because that's very important too. Even though it's not roasted too well, we're the type of roast that we'll do maybe, but we'll get another sense of it, and it'll kind of give us like the second okay for that coffee. So we try a lot of different coffees. Let's say we're gonna try a Kenya. We choose from there what we personally like best to what we want to offer our customers. So and then it's the roasting process. So I don't know if that's a question, if that answered your question better said.
That's down the road. That's down the road a little bit, I think, on the questions. So what I was going to say was, when you sent me, I think you sent me 5 origins back when we first started talking.
4 or 5, yeah.
4 or 5, yeah. The really neat thing from a consumer standpoint, I think, on that is being able to get, say, if I get 3 different origins from you and I'm tasting the bean, you can honestly sit there and taste the difference. It's not like, oh, does it taste like coffee? No, if you make them side by side, because I did, I made 2 pour overs or 3 pour overs, and I had my own little cupping session. You can taste it. You can be like, yeah, that is definitely different than that one. There is way more citrus flavor in this one, or I really like the deep chocolate notes of this one a little bit more, because this is what I'm going for here. But you can really taste that, and I really encourage everybody, if they're watching now and if they're thinking about ordering some coffee from you guys, to do that. Order 2 or 3 bags and taste the difference. You can sit there and taste the difference in the coffee when you make it. And for like instance, for me and my wife, this morning I brewed the same coffee for both of us, but I did one as a French press and one as a pour over.
Yeah.
And you can taste the difference there.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It's a totally different experience.
Totally different.
And that's why I really encourage a lot of people to get a V60, to get a French press, to get a Chemex, to test out different methods, to get an AeroPress, just to try it, because you might be like, this coffee's okay.
Right.
But then you brew it in a French press and it just knocks your socks off, because that's where it really comes out. And that's the same way with origins and stuff. So that's really
and that's kind of what we like to choose too, different, even if it's origins, different, because like we have a couple of Nicaraguans that are totally different. I mean, the Yader and Karen is more of a robust coffee, even though it's not very roasted. And the Idealista, which has been Weiner's coffee, is just it's just so much lighter, and it's so and the acidity just pops out on it. I mean, these farms are really literally on the other side of each mountain. So I mean, that's the cool part about coffee too. It's like you can have a farm on one side of the mountain, and or even a farm right next to each other, and the coffees can be totally different. And talking about that is also the way we roast. We try to roast the coffee to where it's really going to stand out. So we're not saying this is going to be a light roasted coffee, or this is going to be a medium dark. No, we don't do medium. Our real top is medium, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We kind of try to find where that coffee really shines and where its whole story, really pops out. Some coffees are going to be better roasted a little darker. Some coffees are much better lighter, where all their flavors are really interpreted in the best way.
So what is y'all's favorite part of the roasting process?
I guess for me particularly, I don't know. I don't know if it's weird or not, but like I really like the smells that you get from the whole roasting process. So from green coffee to yellowing to first crack, and then when it's done, like all the smells that come out are so different, different. And I love that part. I love how a roaster smells all the time. I just like that very much.
I had no clue what it smelled like until today. Like I walked in, I was like, "That's not coffee." Like, and he had just started roasting.
And that's what we get.
I was like, "That's not coffee. That doesn't smell." And I've been told that in every interview that that it doesn't smell like you think it would, and it really, really, really doesn't. It was really cool to see the difference.
Yeah. It is a progression of like hay to bread to caramels, and then where you're actually smelling a little roasty. It depends where you get to.
Yeah.
But you really go through those progressions, and the change of color of the beans is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think my favorite. It's hard to say which is my favorite part. I really like the whole process of selecting the beans, selecting what you're going to buy. I love it. I love selecting and researching what we're going to buy next. It's what got me into roasting coffee at home. I would spend hours and hours on the computer just seeing which one am I going to choose, what am I going to take, and I would read the story. I really like their story. I really like the type of notes that it might come out with, and that's the part of that really enamored me at first. And then I'm very technical, so I love planning the roast. It might seem weird. I really love roasting. It's like I feel like I'm in a trance. It's like I could have a terrible day, and when I start roasting, I forget about everything. And I'm just in the moment, and roasting is so hands-on that you have to be so aware of everything that's going on. And even even if you're re-roasting something, you just gotta plan on that roast the next day of that same coffee, and try to make it similar. Coffee is, even though it's all similar, it's all different little sizes, and sometimes you'll be surprised how things change. So you have to react to that sometimes, and that whole process I really love. And then trying it, I love trying and seeing the reaction on people that have never had incredible coffee. I really like everything about it. It's hard to really pinpoint what I like most, to be honest with you.
I think that shines through pretty good when you describe it that way. It's quite exciting. It was so today with when I got there and started watching Chris, another roaster named Chris. So I think I have like 14 roasters, and 14 of them are named Chris in some way, shape, or form. So when I was watching Chris roast today, within about 4 minutes of me being there, I knew what shot I was going to try to get with my camera. Just the concentration that was on his face when he was looking at numbers and looking at his computer and writing it down in a notebook and pulling it out and looking at it and smelling it and checking everything. There was just this look of total concentration for that 14 minutes that it was amazing. And I think I'm fixing to have to go check on somebody. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
That's fine. I'm going to get. Do you want some water?
Yeah.
Unsparkled water.
We had one of the there's apparently something very exciting on YouTube going on right now for the Ninja Kids.
Oh,
It's quite amazing.
that's good.
So oh, he's back and he's got coffee. Y'all drinking coffee or water? What are y'all drinking right now?
It's coffee. No, I'm just kidding. It's water. We've had a lot of coffee today.
Yeah, today, yeah.
We need some water.
I've got a single origin. Actually, it's a Papua New Guinea is what I've got
nice.
here that I got from Chris this morning, and it is really, really, really good. It's one of his darker roasts, but
okay.
Or when he says darker, he only goes to a medium dark. I don't think he has a really, really, really dark roast that he does, but this is really good. Really good coffee.
And coffee is very personal. It's not like you push, it's just like beer, wine, some people like stouts, some people like IPAs, some people like lagers, and wine is the same thing. White, red, all the variations, coffee is very personal. You might like it with milk. You like it really strong. You like it light. Do you like espressos? It's not something you can push people to like something that they're not going to. Can you push them to try something different? I mean, that's what we try to do, because we have a very different concept of what coffee is, and we buy such premium beans that it's very hard for us to roast it very dark, because you really start losing its premier notes. They just start disappearing. And and that's one part about roasting dark, is that it's just and that's why Starbucks is so consistent when you go everywhere, because they roast it to a point that they can blend many different farms, many different regions, and it all tastes the same in the end. So for us, coffee is just we really try to sell the farmer and the work that he did, because even if we can be the best roasters in the world, and you really can't make the coffee better than it is, and that it's processed.
Yeah,
we can do a good job, but if the coffee's not phenomenal, we can in a sense we say we can only screw it up. So
it's just an amazing process that goes into it. I saw a chart, I think, on Pinterest the other day when I was cruising Pinterest looking at how to sell more coffee. There was a chart, and on that chart, I think it was 80% of the quality of the coffee comes from, like, there was a chart. It was like 80% was how the crop is raised, how the coffee is raised, where it comes from. 10% of it's the roaster, and 10% of it was how it was brewed. But there's so much concentration on where that is, and you get on. I'm not going to talk bad about any of my competitors, but you get on other sites and you look at it and you start picking up on key terms, like they use the term premium coffee or gourmet coffee, and that's not in, premium's a step down technically. If you look at the Specialty Coffee Association, there's like, we're talking about specialty coffee. It's a certain rating. It's been raised a certain way. It's got standards. But if you start talking about premium, okay, then you're in a total different ballpark on price, how it was raised, the origin. You can go on some large coffee sites and not even get a single hit off of, if you type in single origin, because they don't have any single origins. Everything's blend.
Yeah.
And so then you're like, wow, you're still charging $14 to $16 for this coffee, and it's not specialty and it's not single origin. So you're probably making a really good amount of money per bag, and the customer's not getting what they're paying for. So that's my rant for the day on
good rant
on specialty coffee. So so I know in the morning when we wake up, I have to brew. If I'm brewing coffee and we're not doing it in the drip, that I have to make 2 separate pots. I have to make 2 batches, because the wife likes French press and I like a V60 pretty much in the morning, or we actually can't fit enough water in our French press to do it to, I can't get a 40-ounce French press. So what are y'all's favorite ways of brewing coffee first thing in the morning?
I mean, we brew coffee with a V60. I say we, but it's okay. Well, I love brewing coffee, and I'm very methodical, so I'm like very perfect to the exact gram. I'm very good at it. Well,
Yeah, no,
she's
complain.
happy. So yeah, we brew V60s every morning. It's my favorite. It took me a while to master. At one point, we used to do a lot of pour overs and bomb max when we first started, which does a very good job if you're not very careful. The V60 for the coffee to really taste how it should. It took me a while to learn, but once I learned it, there's no going back. For me, it's my favorite. Even though we brew with AeroPress, with French press, the Chemex we used to like a while is just I can explain a little bit about what happens with the Chemex. It's just it takes too long to brew.
Yeah.
But we brew in almost everything. But our favorite is the V60. I think it does the best job.
Yeah, I still haven't mastered that one. I really like the AeroPress. It's easy, it's quick, and you can do various.
1,000. I mean, how many recipes can you really use?
Yeah,
you can. There's so many. There's so many, and I've found the one technique I like with it that I turn around and make a really good Americano, or what was it? I've been practicing. We figured out. So we're dairy free, or at least my wife is. I still do use heavy cream, but my wife's dairy free, and so we've been trying the oat milk lattes. And so I've figured out how to use the French press to foam the milk and get all that going, and doing the espresso shots out of the AeroPress and figuring out that mix. And it's been an adventure just to learn how to do that and try to get as strong as coffee as I can out of the AeroPress, but not too bitter. That way it works really well in a latte. So it's
in brewing, it's all about experimentation, time and grind size. Time, grind size, and weight. If you experiment with that, what I would recommend for people starting out in specialty coffee is try to keep something constant. Like for example, the French press. How do we prepare the French press? We do it with actually pour over grind. We don't go too coarse. We actually do it kind of fine. With the same grind you're using for the V60, or even less coarse than that. And I like to obviously heat up the vessel. Boil the water. Try to leave it 45 seconds to a minute. And in that process, you can heat up the vessel, obviously. Weigh out your coffee, grind it. At that moment, I truly tell everybody, buy a burr grinder. It is, if you're buying really good coffee, just buy the burr grinder. It's a difference from night and day. Because even if we'll be happy to grind it for you, but the quality of that coffee. And sorry for getting off of the French press thing a second. The quality of the coffee really goes down like by the day. I mean, by the day. You're not drinking the same coffee you're getting. And the other, we grind it pretty well, but a good burr grinder is really important for consistency and grind size. And that will definitely help the extraction of the coffee.
Oh yeah.
So once you got your great burr grinder and you grind it to medium, we put it in, we put in it depends on your ratio. We're not going to talk about ratio here. We put in the coffee, the water, and then we stir it about like 5 times. We do start the timer right before we stir. And we stir it about 5 times, put the lid on right a little bit below the ground, and we leave it 4 minutes. That's where the personal specific thing comes in. You can always play with how long you leave it. I wouldn't leave it more than 4.5 minutes or less than 3.5. And you can play with the grind size to see what certain strength. And also every coffee is different. I mean, you can have one way of doing every coffee, but if you want to be really experimental, you could play with grind size and times for different coffees. So and obviously, once the 4 minute mark's gone, you pull it down and preferably put that coffee in another vessel and not leave it in there, or put it in your cup. I mean, it depends. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. I think the French press is a great, simple way of making good coffee. I think it's a little muddy sometimes, and it doesn't bring out all the cleanness out of coffee. Some people like that, and there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah, I really like the French press too.
I mean, I like the V60 because it comes out really clean.
Yeah.
Especially if you know if you know how to use it well. So
yeah, if it's so I grind mine maybe a little bit too fine sometimes for the V60, but I know I've got it right because I've got 9 different coffees downstairs right now. I think because I got a box in yesterday, I got a box in today, and then I picked up some this morning. So I'm pretty consistent on my weight ratio is always 1 to 15. That's okay. Pretty much where I start when I try something. I'm always around 200, 205 on water temperature. Okay. You know, I'm 600 milliliter or 600 grams of water to 40 grams of coffee. And with that V60, sometimes I'm like, okay, it's not done in 4 minutes as I'm brewing it. Yeah. Let's increase the grind size. That way it brews just a little bit quicker, because if you start going to 5 minutes, then we start getting a muddy, you know, it's not really
bitterness, really. That's really where it comes from.
Yeah. So
and I mean, and a tip that not everybody says, but you know, I tend to use when my slurry chokes, because that's what happens. A lot of fines get in the slurry and it chokes the brew. I mean, if you're getting to that, just if there's not that much water, you know, left, just take it off and put a little bit more water in your brew. It'll really fix it. It's better than leaving it there. Yeah. And just letting that bitterness, because you're kind of doing like an Americano thing. You're putting some water and some brewed coffee. I mean, it's not going to make the coffee. It's actually going to be good for a coffee instead of, you know, making it bad. And that's kind of my tip for the day for pour overs. Well, I have a bunch of tips I can give you, but
do you ever have a specific time that you like to wait before you actually pour it in a cup and drink it? Like, so we've taken the V60 off, or we've taken it and put it in a carafe out of a French press, but do you not say, okay, now I'm going to wait 4 minutes for it to cool off a little bit?
Yeah, you know, I don't think we waited for it's just when we can drink it. Yeah. And then we just wait a little bit, you know, and it depends on what type of, you know, if you have one of those thermos where if you don't leave open, I mean, you can't drink it forever, you know, that's pretty much it. But we pretty much have.
Yeah, we don't have a time exact.
You know, I think 4 minutes is a good amount of time. Yeah, and sometimes more. So
yeah.
And getting to the point of V60s, you know, we there's 2 ways I make V60s. It depends how hurried we are. So, you know, my go-to is actually 16.5 grams of water to each gram of coffee. And this involves 2 pours, actually 3 pours. The bloom, which we do 3 to 1. So if you're using, let's say, you know, 22 grams or 66 grams of water for the bloom, we actually use a spoon. We put it into the slurry just so it actually mixes up the water with all the slurry. If you don't do that, you're going to get channeling. So you mix up that slurry. I like to wait a minute. Normally, everybody says about 45. I like to wait a minute. It just lets all the water finally come down and all that CO2 to get out. I actually do a little spin, right? You know. And I actually do 3 spins in this one. Then my next pour is actually to 180 grams. And I spin again, small, not a hard spin, you know, just a little spin so that slurry like moves around, gets some of that channeling out of the way. And then the next pour is to 360. Each pour has to be very slow, I'm telling you. You do a fast pour, you're going to get that water coming in through too quickly, and you're probably going to under extract. So, and then the spin is also in the end, after it draws down a little bit after 360. All that does is just makes a flat bed. Yeah. You're really just extracting a lot. And the reason why this is my favorite way to make coffee is because every time you're pouring, you're putting turbulence through the grounds, and that's extracting more. And my other method is just one pour. Well, the bloom, I sometimes don't count the bloom as a pour, but the bloom and then a full pour. And what I do here is that I actually grind a little bit thinner, and I use more coffee. I actually do 14.5.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I do the same thing, but I do the bloom because it's 25 grams. This I use 25 grams. So I do the bloom at 75 grams of water. I do the same thing. Use the spoon to mix it a little bit, the slurry, and do a little spin. I wait a minute, and then you go all the way to 360, and then you just let it draw down a little bit, and give it a little stir again, and a little spin to the V60, and just let it draw down. Because you're not using that much turbulence. You're not pouring all the time. You're extracting the coffee less, so you need to grind it a little finer, and and you need more coffee just to get it right.
My V60 game's not anywhere near yours, dude. You've got that. You've got that.
It took me a long time. I'm very picky that my coffee's perfect. So
I was reading one of the
experimentation. I mean, it's just like riding a bike. I like to tell this to people because people sometimes are like afraid of learning learning how to brew well because they're not doing it right and they just don't want to try. But it's just like riding a bike. How many times did you fall that first time? How many times did you need to look at a video again or to your parents to push you in the back? But once you started writing it, you were fine. It felt like, and that's how I brew nowadays. I'm not thinking,
Yeah.
It's just second nature. It's just getting to there. It takes a little practice. And thankfully there's tons of people educating out there. There's tons of methods that one might work for you, one might not, for our type of roast, we figured that, this is a very good method and the coffee comes out spectacular. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got it down to where even if I forget to zero out the scale, like I'll be doing something else. I'll be chasing a kid or trying, respond to somebody's email, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, I got this, and I'll still hit the same line on the cup every time because I'm within a couple grams of it. Okay, that's I know I should be at 120, 150 grams right now, water in there. Here, we'll go ahead and tear it out and keep on going with it. But I know I saw one AeroPress recipe the other day that was talking about the specific type of wood for the bamboo, for the chopstick to use to stir it counterclockwise. I was like, okay, that's pretty intense.
That's pretty intense. I agree.
That's pretty intense.
I agree. I use the one that an AeroPress brings, which is perfect.
Yeah.
And we actually, through many recipes, I actually Tim Vendible. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's one of the top roasters in Europe, and his AeroPress recipe to me is the best.
Does he have a YouTube channel? I think I might have.
Well, I'm not sure, but I know that his website does.
Okay.
He probably does have it.
Yeah.
You'll have to text me his name, and then I'll put it up in the comments here as well. So people, I'll do that after we get done. I'll put a bunch of links and stuff down below on YouTube so people can find out information on the stuff that we've talked about here today if they come back and watch it later on.
Of course.
For somebody who's we talked about this just a little bit, but I want to hit on it again. For somebody who's new to fresh roasted coffee, who's new to specialty coffee, how would you suggest they get into it? And also for people who are already into it, how would you suggest them to introduce other people to specialty coffee? Because that's the real thing that we need. Is I need everybody who's watching and all my customers to tell 5 of their friends.
Right, of course.
About it, and they tell 5 of their friends. So how do you think is the best way to introduce somebody to specialty coffee? Besides just making them a cup and saying, here, take it.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of education and them trying a good cup of coffee. And I think what you're trying to do, which is putting a lot of videos out there, helping to brew right, is really the right way to go. And I would try to keep it as simple as possible at first. Not go with the crazy coffees, not crazy. I mean, the Ethiopians some people love them from the beginning, actually changed their minds on coffee. from going that I hate coffee to I love coffee. Some people with Ethiopians do that. But I would try to first go simple. First, try to make a great French press. Once you make a great French press, that's kind of like the barrier has been broken to where you can actually say, well, I can try a much cleaner cup and do a pour over. French press is easy to do if you do it right. And the coffee is like just night and day anyways. If you're using good coffee and you're using fresh coffee, it's not going to taste stale. It's not going to be super acidic. It's not going to taste rancid. So doing that, even if you don't want to start with a grinder, which I highly recommend, as you already know, just start with a French press and do it right. I think that's the easiest way. And we have a lot of clients that started that way and now have like everything. I'm telling you, they started with a French press and now they have aero presses, pour overs, better grinding. Better brewing equipment if they don't actually want to brew it. So I think that's a great way. And even if they're not great, a good drip coffee with the right ratios and the right grind. It's life changing for a lot of people. So you don't have to do it manual specific. You can get a good brewer that'll do a very decent job. And that's a great way to start because, doing a good drip coffee is as special. It's as important to specialty coffee nowadays than the pour overs.
We do
great. And going to a really good coffee shop, that's a good way to start too. Going to a good coffee shop that does pour overs, that does good drip. We've done that's another thing we've done a huge job on is creating awesome drip coffee. We don't have a coffee shop, but we go around and we do events, and we have a small Curtis brewer that does 2 liters of coffee, which is what the max I recommend unless you're serving a lot of coffee. And our coffee is as good in drip than it is in pour over. Sometimes it's even better.
Yeah.
So don't be scared of drip. If it, that's kind of the way that I say it's a good coffee shop. If it has good drip and good espresso, you should be able to drink an espresso without sugar. In all reality, but espresso is a whole different game.
Whole different. One of these days we're going to get one, and I'll learn how to run that thing. It will be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I don't know if y'all can hear it. There's a helicopter apparently trying to land somewhere in my neighborhood here. Hopefully it doesn't pull
we
up
can't hear
on the sound too bad here.
No, we can't hear it. So
okay, good. So
in reality, that's just I think the best thing to do is keep it simple. Keep it simple, because if you're going into specialty coffee with a V60, you're gonna hate it. Trust me, you'll hate it.
Yeah. Because
you need to learn how to make coffee very well to make a great V60. So start with a French press and go your way up. I would almost go French press, AeroPress, or an easy pour over like the Bon Mac. That's a great one to start with, or the Clever Dripper. That's a great starter drip, starter pour over, because it's kind of like immersion, but pour over.
That's 2 weeks in a row that the Clever Dripper was mentioned. I'll have to look into that. And
the coffee isn't the best. It comes out a little bit as a French press. It's a little muddier because it's immersion, and it's not as quick as the AeroPress. So you'll lose a couple of the greatest notes out of coffee, but it's great coffee either way, and it's a great way to start. It's a great way to start learning. So just start easy. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I think my biggest recommendation whenever I'm always talking to my friends is, look, get a scale. You don't have to get an expensive scale. It doesn't have to be Bluetooth and timer and everything. Go to Walmart, go to Target, Amazon. Just get you a food scale that weighs in grams, and that's where you start.
Consistency is key to good coffee. To weigh your coffee. If you're, even consistency, even if you're doing spoonfuls, it's better to weigh. There's no doubt. Yeah. That would be one of the most important equipments, is just weigh your coffee, because that way you can get the same consistent tasting coffee every time. And that's what you want. So
yeah, it needs to be able to consist, because I've got YouTube video in the works here that I did, and I weighed the same coffee at 5 different grind levels with 5 or 6 different scoops. I think I had a Mr. Coffee scoop, a Ninja scoop, the
Awesome.
AeroPress scoop, and a couple of them were really close to being like the same, a tablespoon measurement. But the second you start doing a heaping tablespoon to a level tablespoon, you're talking about a gram to 2 grams to 3 grams difference in the measurement. And then if you're going
a bunch,
makes a huge difference when you're talking
Huge
about
difference.
I'm brewing for 10 cups in a drip, and now I've actually, put 15 scoops and they were all 2 grams over. Well, now I've got 30 grams more coffee than I needed to begin with. And that you're going to get, if anything, you're going to get under extraction because there's too much coffee in there and the water's not getting on it.
Yeah,
it
can happen either way. It depends on the grind if it's going to be under extracted or over extracted.
Oh yeah. And then you get my coffee pot downstairs. You can't put enough coffee in it to make 12 cups. You physically can't put enough coffee grounds in it to make 12 cups at a 15-to-1 ratio. It'll make a mess. The basket will only hold like 15 or 18 tablespoons. And so if I was making 12 cups of coffee every morning out of that thing, I would never have a good cup of coffee. It just wouldn't happen because I couldn't have enough coffee in that basket. Which is why
and I'm sorry, but if you can't get good equipment, that's really important, because if those things aren't really flowing the water correctly, I mean, if those spray heads aren't spraying the water everywhere at once, you're going to get uneven extraction, channeling. If that water temperature isn't right, you're not going to get good coffee. I mean, you might as well just, not buy good coffee,
Yeah. We don't want to do that, but
exactly.
Don't judge the coffee by your coffee maker if your coffee maker might be not doing the way it's supposed to be doing. So
that's well said.
It's a huge. I've had a few complaints before about, I really didn't like the coffee, and I said, oh, well, how did you brew it? Well, I did this way. Okay. Sorry, let me get you another bag. Have you looked at a V60? Have you looked at it? Do you have a scale? Let me send you a scale. I need to start stocking those and say, do a special. You buy 4 bags and you get a free scale. It'll be
that's a good idea.
Down the road.
Scales we use are these Amazon scales, so I mean, we're professionals.
Yeah,
we use scales that are from Amazon that are like $15.
Yeah, my favorite scales at $18.
I've had it right next to great scales. They weigh the same. Doesn't unless you really want to do geeky and see what your pour rate is and all that stuff. Doesn't have to be that complicated either.
No, it really doesn't. I think I'll put the link up in the comments to the scale I use every day, and it has time, and you can zero out, and that's about all you need. I mean, you don't even need the time, but I'm always on the phone doing social media and trying to capture the brew, so I can't really do it on my phone. So we're almost there. We got about 5 minutes left. So let's talk about where you're carried there locally in Asheville. Where can somebody find your coffee there locally?
Well, first Easy's west. There's a downtown location. They used to carry our coffee, but the west is the most consistent one.
The Easy's downtown went with their original roaster they've been using for a long time, and they're not that much of a multi-roaster anymore. But their west does, so we're carried there. We are served in H&F Burgers in Asheville and Golden Fleece, which is a Greek Mediterranean slow earth cooking restaurant close to the Grove Park Inn. And we're in French Broad Co-op.
Yes.
So we're in our growing phase.
That's awesome.
And mainly online. We really try our get it from you. I mean, that's the best thing to do online. Yeah. Get it from Roasters Marketplace. I mean, because we will roast that to order, and you're getting coffee that is fresh, and that is the most important thing. You know, even getting to freshness. We don't like to drink our coffee to like 4 days after roast, so it takes out all the roastiness. A little bit of the CO2 gets out,
Hmm.
and that's where the brewing really starts. Very fresh roasted coffee will have a lot of CO2 pumping out through there, and then actually that CO2 is actually creating channeling. But you know, that's
Yeah.
another.
I think it's awesome that the fact that, when I send y'all an order, usually within, a few hours, you've texted me back and you're like, hey, I'll roast it tomorrow, or I'm actually going to throw it in today. And then it's going to go to the post office the next day. And that's one thing I don't think our customers realize is the amount of detail that we're paying attention to when it's roasted and when it's, you know, on my end, I wish I could show the text messages, from my roasters, like, hey, I'm actually doing a batch right now, and I'll throw it in the bag, and we'll get it out tomorrow. Or, hey, it's ground, and this has happened with you before. Hey, it's ground. I need to wait at least 24 hours before I grind it after I roast it, because I don't want to grind it too soon. I don't want to send it out too soon. So it's amazing the fact that every one of these bags that go out from my website, there's that much detail going on to it. When you order from some other places and it might just be off the shelf and gone.
Right.
It's just everybody, I think almost everybody on my website, it's either roasted then or it's roasted that 2 or 3 days prior.
Yeah.
They roast on Monday and that's their only roast day. And then if it is ordered on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, it ships, and so it's all getting out there within 7 days of it being roasted, and you're not going to find that anywhere else, not on a shelf anywhere, at least.
Well, and I think I talk for both of us. We love what you're doing because
Thank you.
it is great to not only represent small roasters and micro roasters. That's something that we don't want to get out of, being micro roasters, because first of all, we can't find enough of what we're looking for. We would have to find various lots, but that's what we want to represent. And you're representing that very well. And the ability for someone to buy so many different coffees from different roasters is beautiful because they can taste different roast styles, different farms. There's so much complexity in coffee that you're providing a great service to.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely not every coffee is the same. So it's having that, that facility of
choosing.
getting it, of choosing from one place.
It's something, when we started, I had to change my business model midway through January, December, have to fix a bunch of stuff on how I was shipping and how stuff was ordering, because I didn't expect somebody to come in and order 4 bags from 4 different roasters. I was just like, that was blown away. And now I have more multi-bag orders from multiple roasters, which is so cool to say you can
cool.
Go from one website and order from Maine, Washington State, North Carolina, and Florida. And then I wish I had a live tracker of the coffee bags getting closer to your house from all over the place, just because it's so cool to say, hey, in the next 3 days, you're going to have coffee from every corner of the United States. And you've only had to go on one website and just pick it out. And that's the hard part now, is there's over 100 roasters on the website. It's picking it, but it's amazing. Where are y'all going with South Slope? What's on the horizon for you guys?
Well, I guess for sure we want to open a coffee shop here
at some point
here in Asheville. So that's our that's our big goal. But mostly now grow the subscriptions.
Grow in restaurants and coffee shops nationwide. I mean, there's no limit towards at least the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to grow in the United States, and obviously we want to grow at home, and we want to grow our wholesale. I mean, that's a great place to be at, is restaurants and coffee shops, obviously. So that's where we are. I mean, we're just in a growing phase, and we just want to be out there, and we want more people to like specialty coffee. So I hope that we're one of the many because many people doing what we're doing, which is really, it's kind of a business, but it's a love and it's also a social job, because you're not only helping us, you're helping a local community, and you're also helping a local community where we buy the coffees from.
Oh yeah.
Because we're paying, in all reality, we are paying between $3.80 to $5.50 for green coffee, and green coffee reduces weight. So
Yeah.
and we have overhead, and you have to, you know how it goes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we're paying much higher than fair prices, and that is, our mission is really to put a light on the farmer and to help out, not only your taste buds, but the world in a very specific way, in a different way.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate y'all taking the time today to talk with us here and spread the story of South Slope and what you're doing. I really appreciate it a lot. Thanks for jumping on board. Y'all were, I want to say y'all were my third or fourth roaster, I think, that jumped on board. And I really appreciate that every time I had one join, somebody else would see that and say, okay, Chris is serious. He's serious about what he's doing. So I really thank y'all for your support. And I've got a ticker going on. So the next thing that we're doing with Roasters Marketplace is we're sponsoring another podcast. I had a friend that reached out to me and said, hey, Chris, I want you to tell my story. I want to get on your channel and tell my story. I was like, dude, you don't roast coffee. And he's like, no, but I want to be able to tell my story. I think I've got a good story to tell. I was like, well, let me look at what we're doing. So tonight is the first episode of our Common Ground Small Business Spotlight.
Nice.
Tonight, it's going to be a little bit later, 10 p.m. Central Time. I'm talking to Abigail Sinclair from the Human, the Human Network Connection. I get it mixed up. Sometimes I say the Human Connection Network. But it's a network of podcasters and personalities that we're going to be talking about how she started this job of connecting other people who are doing podcasts like mine. And then I've got a couple more episodes next week. I'm talking to a local mobile coffee shop. He's got an awesome trailer called Hebrews Coffee, Hebrews Community Coffee. I'm talking to him on Monday. And then on Wednesday night, I'm talking to my buddy Big Tex Outdoors and telling his story on Common Ground. So, we're looking at a bunch of different stuff here at Roasters Marketplace that we're doing, but we're still telling the story of people behind these small businesses. Or I've got a buddy coming on in 2 weeks that he's going to do a live concert podcast. So he's going to play his music for us and tell about his story. I served with him in the military, but it's just an awesome opportunity to share our story and coffee with everybody around the country. So once again, Luis Cristina, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope to come to Asheville one of these days and
sure,
and visit.
You're more than welcome to have you.
Appreciate y'all being on the show today.
Well,
For
thank
sure,
you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
And it should